live, ECU?
R.
Do you bleed purple and gold? Are you ready to hoist the colors?
Hoist the colors!
It's time for the most in-depth look into the world of ECU athletics. Welcome to Hoist the Colors with your host, Stephen Igo on 94.3 The Game. Watch the show live on Facebook and at 943thegame.com. Here's Stephen Igo.
Welcome in. It is Hoist the Colors on a Tuesday. We're 3 days out from opening day. ECU and Xavier going to battle this weekend inside Clark-LeClaire Stadium. Looking forward to that. Scheduled for a 4 o'clock first pitch. On today's show, we've got a lot to get to. We'll talk ECU baseball, of course, here in a second with Mike Mullis. We also are going to have a segment on ECU offensively. We've gone through the entire roster, better, worse, even, given our take on that, how it looks on paper compared to how it looked at the end of last season. Now we'll look at the ceiling as well of the offense. How high can the ceiling be if it all clicks, if it all comes together? Maybe we'll discuss the floor as well for the Pirates in 2026. We'll continue our ECU baseball roster rundown as well. We're live on YouTube, Facebook, and X. Got a question, comment, concern, drop it in the chat. We'll get to it throughout the next hour. All right, let's visit with Mike Mullis. He will be on the call this year for some ESPN Plus broadcast. Always does a great job following the team in the offseason, in the season as well. Mully, you ready for some baseball this Friday?
I am, man. It seems like kind of amazing that we're talking about it, considering the weather pattern that has been in Eastern North Carolina. But yeah, man, it's time to play, and I'm pumped. I've enjoyed watching this club the fall and early spring, and looking forward to another exciting season of baseball.
So we got a lot to get into. We haven't really talked to you all off season, so we'll dive into some specifics here in a bit, Mully. But general thoughts on what you've seen just with the team from the fall to the preseason. What have you liked about this Pirate team as you've watched some live action?
Let's go on the offensive and defensive side, not pitching related, but just the position players. A lot of variability, a lot of athleticism, a little more physical presence than maybe we've seen in the past out of some guys, and there's still some guys. You can kind of look at this club and get a pretty good feel about what their roles will be, largely based off what they what they ring up on the scales. They brought in some, again, more physically imposing guys, but when you look at Sabater, you look at some of these other guys, Lanahan is kind of a combination, but speed is certainly present. Interesting composition, Stephen, from the standpoint of it literally looks as though they could run this thing almost like a hockey team with, some kind of defensive specialists, and they go over the boards, and you see them for, 7th through the 9th or even 6th through the 9th in certain situations. And then, they could certainly go with a more offensive setup. So a lot of variability. I think it's an interesting challenge as a coach from the standpoint of you got a lot of guys that should see time or good enough to see time, plenty talented to see time, and you can't play them all. So, but if anybody does an amazing job of plugging pieces in and playing matchups, it's Cliff Godwin. I don't know if there's anybody better in the country at the college level at doing that. And so everybody will have a role, and it'll be a matter of staying ready and understanding what your role is. But from the pitching side, Bud, I have never seen a staff as deep as the one that East Carolina will roll out. And again, even talking with the staff, I've been asked a million times, what do I think the weekend rotation is? And I've probably given 3 or 4 different answers, and none of them are really answers. They're almost politician answers, because I'll give 5 different guys that you could see in a three-game set, and you only have 3 starters. So I think the pitching bodes well. There's enough depth there on both sides of the ball that they could weather an injury or two. Probably the one spot that I don't feel quite that strongly about is behind the plate, and I think Walker Baird defensively is head and shoulders the best catcher, and it's a significant drop off again defensively if something were to happen to him. But otherwise, I think the program's in great shape from a talent standpoint, and again, I think it's going to be interesting to watch how Cliff manages all this.
Visiting Mike Mullis, ECU, ESPN Plus baseball analyst. And Mully, we know the names, of course, Braden Burris, Austin Irby, Colby Wallace, Jack Herring, maybe some unknown about where exactly they'll line up on opening day. But who are some other new names or unfamiliar names to Pirate fans that have impressed you watching this preseason in the position player standpoint?
So let me add to your list, man, and this is a name that some people may kind of raise an eyebrow at, but, man, I believe our buddy Boucher, Alec Boucher from over at South Central High School, man, I firmly believe he's going to have a great season offensively. And again, he might not be an everyday guy. And positionally, he has worked all over the field. Even seen him on the mound, which I don't expect to see much of that, but man, he has really had a nice fall with the bat. He's a changed guy from an approach standpoint, and I mean, hitting balls all over the park and hitting balls all over the world with the juice he's got. So we'll add that one to one of those kind of returning guys. And I think from a newcomer standpoint, there's probably a handful. The power is represented with Vogel, the Walter State transfer. He has absolute light tower power. I'd be interested to see kind of where he works into this thing. Sabater's your speedy guy. Kind of interesting enough, I talked to a close friend of mine who is a head coach at a Division II program at Wingate, and they played Millersville, which is where Sabater came from. And he asked me specifically about Jeff, and he said, "Man, how's he been doing?" I said, "Dude, he's a good player." And Jeff's like, and my buddy Jeff, head coach of Wingate, said, "Man, we couldn't get that guy out." And he just, man, if he was on first, he was pretty quickly on third. And I think he had 100 stolen bases in 2 years. And so that'll be another interesting one. I think from a freshman standpoint, all eyes point to Lanahan. That is a talented young guy. And man, all he does is hit. He is just a kind of a throwback kind of player. For people in my era, I'm going to say he kind of reminds me of the Giles brothers, and you probably remember them. And he's a good-looking player. So I think there's a number of names to watch for, and I'm leaving guys out that I thought were pretty impressive in the fall. I hate Braxton Trammell's not going to be in the lineup at least early. He had a nice fall, but those guys, are definitely ones that you want to circle on the roster.
Kenny in the chat with a good question. I was kind of going to ask you this as well, Molly. He says, what difference will we see with the new hitting coach with the bats this season? Obviously, Jake Gautreau coming in. We know Cliff Godwin loves to run the offense. I was asked this on our podcast. I kind of said, Molly, it's tough to really quantify in the preseason. Maybe we'll know more once the games actually begin. We see how the offensive philosophy changes or stays the same. What's your take on Gautreau coming in, how we may see the offense change as a result?
It's going to be more SEC-like, right? That's where he cut his teeth, and he was a great hitter himself, and he knows that what great hitters want to do is go up and have some freedom to get off good aggressive swings. And I'll be honest with you, man, the first day that I went to BP, so way back early in the fall, it was a noticeable difference. There were many more balls in the air, balls out of the park, balls being driven, just a lot more of an aggressive approach from an actual technical and thought process standpoint. So, a big part of hitting and the guy that dictates your hitting philosophy as it relates to what's my plan getting in the batter's box is obviously hit. For lack of a better way to put it, Gautreau's responsibility is to tune the car, and then obviously Cliff will drive the car as he sees fit. So I think the stat that jumps out at me last year, East Carolina was number 9 in the country in sack bunts, and Mississippi State, where Gautreau came from, was 188. So you got to feel like we're probably not going to be 9 again, and certainly not going to be 188. It'll be somewhere in the middle. And don't get me wrong, the sack bunt is still an offensive weapon that CG likes to use and is still going to implement. I would expect to see it a fair amount this weekend as historically pitching beats hitting early in the season. But I think, just sit back and watch, and if you get a chance to get out and watch the BP and just, kind of pay attention to what the results are. And that's a combination of a different philosophy and obviously different parts. But short answer, man, a lot more aggression, and even the guys will tell you. And I've asked them, hey, man, what's the difference? It looks, especially with like a guy like Boucher, what's the difference? And they're like, hey, man, we're a lot more aggressive. We're getting off good swings, and they do a pretty good job cutting it down with 2 strikes. But I think you'll see again that increased aggression.
If there's one question I have with the position players, Mully, it's shortstop in terms of can they get a guy to emerge there as the guy? You know, we know Matt Lashley can pick it. I know he's been slowed with a little bit of an injury in the preseason. We know Carlos Hakame coming over from USF is an option there, can also play second. You know, Braden Burris, Colby Wallace have played there in scrimmages, Nick Parham. How do you see that position playing out, and do you think there's a favorite going into open day to start, or is that kind of an unknown?
Well, it probably an unknown, largely based off of exactly where Lashley is. When I was out the other day, you could tell he's still gimpy a little bit, and but still involved in the scrimmage and bouncing around. But he, you said it, he can absolutely pick it. And I know that you guys had a conversation about what translates from the junior college ranks to this level. And one thing that does translate typically is defense. And this dude was like the conference player or the conference defensive player of the year. He has an innate ability to the ball just goes in his glove. Sometimes he does things that aren't necessarily textbook or routine, but he finds a way to make the play. And Carlos, look, man, I don't hate him at short either. I mean, we're talking about a guy that's got experience there in this conference, kind of understands what it looks like, and can certainly play it. And I'll tell you what you get with him, you get a different level of chatter and of leadership than it's something that just comes to him. Matter of fact, his little brother was at camp last year, and his little brother does the exact same thing. So it's just something they grew up doing. But, I think if you platoon those two guys, it's not the worst thing in the world. I think you see Lashley, if nothing else, I think you see him go in tight games late in the ballgame to play defense.
On the mound, we expect Ethan Norby to go Friday. Hank Hinton said that he learned that Gavin Van Kempen is going to start Saturday. At least that's what he heard from Gavin at the banquet. Sunday, I guess TBD officially. We've heard Colby Weber. Ryan Towers has kind of been tossed around as a possibility, although he's thrown Friday in the scrimmages. And also it looks like Sean Jenkins may start the year in the bullpen. So any final Mully rotation predictions, and what's a fair expectation for Colby Weber as a talented freshman? We kind of went through this last year with Jenkins. What should we expect from Weber this year?
I think the difference will be Weber's indoctrination into the staff and into action. Jenkins was forced. That was no different than Norby was forced into the front end. Jenkins was forced to eat those innings early and make appearances where they may have otherwise not have thrown him out there. But so I think you get to see, instead of Jenkins being microwaved, I think you get to see Weber come along in a kind of a slow bake and let him get ready to seize that big moment. I will tell you, though, I think by the end of the season, the kid's taking the ball in some pretty big situations. It's electric stuff, Stephen. It's next level good. You don't want to put a tag on a guy and go, well, there's your next first rounder. But where there's smoke, there's fire. And I'm going to tell you, he's got some fire. The kid is, and it's more than just a high velocity fastball. It's just all his repertoire, his arsenal is really good, and I think just going to continue to get better. But you said it just a minute ago when you route off all the names, and you got Chacon that's still out there, you got Webb that's still out there, you got Antolik that looks like he's going to be the high leverage arm out of the pen, but is he a guy that you end up seeing make a start? I mean, this is the epitome of this is a nice problem to have, and I had heard that Van Kempen may be the guy. I would tell you what I would love to see from a personal and probably pace of play standpoint. Man, let's go Norby game 1 and go Towers game 3. It would be, if they could pitch against each other, it would be like a sprinter's race. They both get it and go and don't waste any time. And Towers is one of those guys, man. It's not going to light the scoreboard up. It's going to be, as far as velocity goes, it's going to be 86, 87. He may show you some 8s and maybe even climb a little bit more as he gets healthy again. But man, he can pitch. So, I don't know. I think that's a mystery. It'll be interesting. In the past, for last season and even the previous year, we would get the kind of the weekend stat packs up in the press box, and it would always be Friday night starter and then TBA because they just didn't know who's going to be able to go. I think we'll still see that a lot, but the difference will be they're just trying to figure out which one is the best option. So I really like where the pitching staff's at. Another name, Ethan Golden, the right-hander, kind of freshman, drop down, sidearm kid, good-looking kid, big, strong, and it's firm from a weird angle, and just different looks that they can get.
Mike Mullis with us. Final thing for Mully. Xavier this weekend was a near at-large team last year. They've got arguably the toughest non-conference schedule in the country. They go out challenge themselves every year. So tough opening weekend, and then obviously we know North Carolina, Keith LeClaire Classic, Coastal on the horizon. Like, this is a tough stretch right out of the gate. So they kind of have to figure out some of these answers quickly, Mully. What are you looking for early in the season from the Pirates as far as finding their footing and trying to probably get some big series wins early?
I think I'm looking at probably what the staff is thinking. Let's get some different lineup makeup out there, different options, get some looks at guys. And you're right, Xavier is not necessarily who you want to do that against. This club is, I don't know that, you said arguably the hardest non-conference schedule. If somebody else plays a harder one, I'd like to see it. But they leave us, go back, play Louisville, then go to Arkansas. They've got Oregon, Oregon State, Ohio State. They just play a murderer's row, not only in opponents but in travel. And so, you got to think their I don't want to say intent and focus will be different, but they will be coming in here knowing that, last year they won 32 ball games and it put them right on the fringe. If they can come in here and find a way to win this series, that kind of gets them ahead of the race for what they're trying to do. And what they're trying to do is take a tough schedule and win their way, into a good spot. And, they didn't even, you had Creighton win the Big East last year, and I think Xavier picked to finish third this year. So just kind of a demonstration of the parity of college baseball as players move around. But this Xavier club, man, is no joke, and it's going to be stiff competition. And so I think at the end of the weekend, if the staff can leave and have a couple wins under the belt, obviously is what their expectation is. But to have a better feel, kind of for what it looks like and what it's going to look like down the road, I think the bigger part of this Pirate club is going to be just allowing them to grow and get a feel for who each other are as they head into the meat of the season.
He is Mike Mullis here. I'm on the call this weekend. I assume, Mully, you'll be up there, right?
Yeah, we'll be. We've got games 1 and 2, and there's some weather in the forecast for Sunday. So if they decide to play a doubleheader on Saturday, which has been rumored, but certainly is no decision has been made. It's just something that you discuss as you look at forecasts. But if they were to do that, we'll have all three. If not, we'll have Friday and Saturday, and I'll be out there Sunday as a fan.
There you go, Mike Mullis. Great insight as always, Mully. We appreciate it, man. We'll connect throughout the season. Appreciate you. Enjoy the baseball this weekend.
Yeah, absolutely, buddy. You too, and we'll enjoy this one, and hopefully we'll be talking about the deep postseason run.
No doubt. Mike Mullis, ECU, ESPN Plus baseball analyst. Always great stuff with Mully talking some baseball. We'll get a break in. We will come back. We will switch gears to football. We've discussed a lot of ECU offense position by position for 2026. A lot of change, a lot of turnover, new coordinator, new quarterback. We'll talk about the ceiling if it all comes together. Maybe discuss the floor as well for the unit in 2026. We'll be right back. This is Hoist the Colors.
You know what the problem is with standard belts? Usually you have to choose between too tight or the opposite, too loose. But with Anson Belt and Buckle, you don't have to choose. We got rid of the holes and instead have a track system designed for micro adjustability. That way you can enjoy a perfect fit every time. Anson Belt and Buckle. Find your perfect fit today.
Healthwise Pharmacy rounds the bases with all of your infusion, retail, compounding, and medical equipment needs. Locally owned and operated by pharmacist Marcy Parker, Healthwise has grown to be your most trusted provider for infusion services. Currently providing in-home or on-site infusions in North Carolina, South Carolina, and Virginia. Visit Healthwise Pharmacy at 615B South Memorial Drive or call 252-295-0059 to speak to a patient service representative to find the option that best suits your needs.
The best burgers around. Everyone loves a thick, juicy, and fresh burger. Tiebreakers does real burgers better than anybody. And don't forget about the cheese sticks, fresh salads, and more. So don't just go to any burger-themed restaurant chain. It's time to break the chain and eat local. Tiebreakers, burgers and sports at its best.
Go Pirates! Arrgh!
In this age of globalization, we've learned that bigger isn't always better. Ever tried to get phone help from a big corporation from a real person? Right. That's what's so nice about Phelps Chevrolet. After more than 50 years serving our community, Phelps remains family-owned and operated. Mike, Daryl, Wave, West, Alan, and Clay deliver hometown service and integrity, same as always. They share your experience, they share your values, and they are ready to help with any motoring need. Come get you one.
Daughtridge Gas and Oil has been your dependable propane supplier for 95 years. Their trained technicians can service and properly install all your propane and natural gas appliances. Plus, Daughtridge Gas and Oil is your backyard expert with fire pits, grills, smokers, and more, including quality outdoor furniture at their Greenville Patio and Hearth Shop at 1901 Charles Boulevard. Go by and see the knowledgeable staff at Daughtridge Gas and Oil for propane delivery or call 756-1345.
You have a choice when you invest in insurance, and when you choose First State Insurance Advisors, you're working with people you can trust. Clark Stallings has deep ties in the community. His team, including Keaton Smith, Regina Asby, Phil Leva, Max Joyner Jr., Max Joyner III, and Ginger Smith, provides knowledgeable and professional advice. First State Insurance Advisors is an independent insurance agency. They offer all types of personal insurance as well as various types for business. Call or email First State Insurance Advisors today. We want to be your trust.
Oh, hey. Welcome back. You got here just in time. This is Hoist the Colors on 94.3 The Game.
Welcome back in. Hoist the Colors, 94.3 The Game. Tuesday, February 10th. Talked a lot of ECU baseball, segment 1 with Mike Mullis. If you missed any of it, check it out. Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Also on the ECU baseball front, we had our Bucks on the Pond expectations going into the season opening series show last night. That is now archived as well on the Hoist the Colors YouTube and Apple Podcasts, Spotify as well. So a ton of ECU baseball talk. We'll continue that theme, obviously, with later in the week with Kason O'Malley from Carolina Curveball on Thursday. He will join us to talk about some of the big action across the Carolinas going into the week. All right, we're going to talk some football now. Philip Pilkington joins us back in the 94.3 The Game studio. We've talked a lot of ECU offense throughout really this past month, I would say. Maybe a couple weeks, probably the better way to say it. But we've gone position by position, better, worse, better, or better, worse, even, I should say. And we've basically said every position on paper compared to how it ended last season offensively for ECU is worse because basically the unknown. You're bringing in talented guys, but you're losing Hauser, Yannick Smith, Anthony Smith, 5 offensive line starters, 2 top tight ends, London Montgomery. I think running back I said better, you said even, but every other position was worse, I want to believe.
Yeah, I think that's right.
So kind of why we're having this segment is like, that doesn't sound great, but at the same time, I still think the ceiling of this offense, if it all comes together, and we can discuss the floor as well, puts ECU in a very good spot. I just think, what does the ceiling of this offense looks like? It's a tough question to answer, but it's also February 10th, and we need something to talk about that's ECU football related, so that's why we're discussing it. And it reminds me a lot of when ECU brought in John David Baker, brought in Caton Hauser, Jake Garcia, brought in Winston Wright, brought in Anthony Smith, all this going into the 2024 season. The difference was that offense in 2023 was arguably the worst in program history. Now the team in 2024, after a slow start, remember there was a lot of grumblings, first 4 or 5 games. Obviously Mike Houston was fired. Then it took off when Caton got the job. They averaged 32 points a game that season. They averaged 436.4 yards per game. They ran 4.8 yards per carry, threw for 264 a game. They were honestly a better rushing attack in 2024 than 2025. So if I'm looking at like the ceiling of the offense, I think it's around those numbers with Jordan Davis coming in, new quarterback. new running backs, receivers. I just think there's a lot of moving parts, and I think realistically you have to kind of expect a slower start, and then maybe it picks up throughout the season. I mean, is that a fair expectation of the ceiling? I mean, how high is the ceiling? I guess you go higher, but like that to me is like the more realistic ceiling.
Yeah, I think so. And to your point, yeah, you probably will have some growing pains early, right? But hey, a lot of new faces. That is totally understandable, totally expected. As for the ceiling, I think the ceiling, you kind of compared it there to other years, and I think that's right to go into the season, but also, is the ceiling higher than what we finished with last year? And I think the answer is yes. I think last year, despite two really good tight ends, the running game was okay. I thought that the wide receiver play was very determined on how the starting three players played. I think this year you have more opportunities to go 10 personnel, probably a little less opportunities to go 12 personnel. I think there will be more bodies in the receiver room that they trust, or at least there's a chance for there to be. And I think there is a better chance to have more explosion plays. And also, they're bringing in that air raid type offense, which, as you mentioned, there's a lot of quick hitters to it, but then there's a lot of deep stuff to it. And if you can find who's going to be your Amon-Ra St. Brown, who can run that deep over route and get across the safety's face, if whoever wins the quarterback job can make that throw, it's a very tough throw to make, but Jared Goff makes it, Matthew Stafford makes it. You have the opportunity with this playbook to be extremely explosive, extremely versatile, and extremely dangerous.
I look at the ceiling, like if we had to rank the ceiling of the position rooms, kind of going off your point to last year, I think Yannick Smith had a ceiling that he never quite reached at ECU. I think Anthony Smith basically reached his ceiling.
Yeah.
But the receiver room as a whole, right now I would take the ceiling of that room. Like if Jeremiah Melvin and Ray Joseph as 4-star recruits pan out, if Landon Sides, Brock Spalding play to their potential, some of these young receivers come along, the transfer from Furman, I think the ceiling of the receiver room is higher. I think the ceiling of the running back room is higher with Ashton Gray coming in. Also, TJ Engelman, I think his best ball, DeJuan Lacey, their best balls in front of him. Michael Allen, a solid addition. And to me, I think the ceiling of the quarterback room, we may not see it this year, but I think the ceiling, if Emory Williams hits, is higher than what Caden Hauser performed at ECU. Is that a crazy statement to make?
No. I mean, look, from what we understand, there are guys on staff that wanted to start Emory Williams next year at Miami, the team who finished in second. It sounds like it was the higher-ups that said, no, we brought in Beck so we can bring in somebody else with starting experience. He's only started 2 games, but it sounds like, yes, God-given quarterback ability, it's higher. Now, does he reach it? Does he have what it takes to be an every-week starter? Who knows? Only time will tell. But, yeah, no, I think the ceiling is higher. And then also, you're in a situation right now where I feel better about Mitch Griffiths than I did about whoever would have been the number 2 last year had something happen to Caton. I don't know, would it have been Chasten, would it have been Mike, who knows. But with the exception of whoever ends up being the Swiss Army knife, I felt Mike Wright had a higher ceiling. Other than that, I think the ceiling's a lot higher for this roster.
This time last year, Jake Garcia was the backup. Shows you how much things can change.
Yeah.
Doesn't that feel like 8 years ago at this point? I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's weird that he was still on the roster at this point last year.
Because we all knew he was leaving.
Yeah.
And he just left mid-spring ball. So, yeah, I do think the tight end room and the offensive line room, I don't know if the ceiling's higher than it was last year. Like with McCrimmon and Poku gone, I think those 2 guys are NFL-caliber players. But I think the offensive line stability with the older guys they brought in is going to be solid at worst. So, I think you have a solid O-line. You should be decent at worst in the tight end room. And then the ceiling of your quarterback, receiver room, and running back room is higher. And so now it's just a matter of how it plays out. And look, the floor is also, I mean, it can happen as well. More than likely it'll be somewhere in the middle. But if the floor happens, then I think you probably have average quarterback play between Williams and Griffiths, and you're likely looking at with decent defensive production, probably a 6-7 win season, is my opinion of a floor with the schedule. Like, I think it's a pretty favorable schedule, but, let's say mid to high 20s point total, average per game. You don't get great quarterback play. You don't get a true number one receiver that emerges. You're just kind of solid everywhere. I think that would be the floor for this offense.
I think it would be. I guess the one question is, unless the offensive line hits their floor and then you can't run the ball and then you just become really one-dimensional, that would make it be worse. But I think that's like a mega floor almost, if that's the thing. Like, I think, worst case scenario, this offensive line's a smidge below average. I don't think they're awful. And if, they're a smidge below average, again, no true number one receiver, quarterbacks who, these guys will be able to make some big-time throws, but just maybe they can't take care of the football. Yeah, you'll sneak in a bowl game or sneak in bowl eligibility depending on how many of these bowl games get tossed by the wayside.
And this is assuming, no knock on wood, no catastrophic injuries, because obviously that can always change the equation as well. Kenny Curlin says, is Jaquez Petaway still here? Yes, Jaquez Petaway is still here. Tyler Johnson is still here. 2 transfers from last year that came in, they're still here. So, like, the receiver room, they've got a ton of options now. They just need a guy. One thing I am curious about this offense with Jordan Davis taking over. All right, so last year, ECU ranked 4th nationally in offensive pace in terms of how fast they snap the ball, every 21.8 seconds. North Texas was 13th last season, every 23.4 seconds. But in 2024, Phillip, North Texas was first, 19.9 seconds. Every 19.9 seconds they snapped the ball. Now, so they went from basically first to 13th. So they backed off that pace a little bit with Eric Morris and Jordan Davis running the show. I'm curious, and 4 seconds may not seem like that big of a deal, but it is. If you multiply that over 80 plays a game, I mean, that's a pretty significant thing. And I think I'm going to guess. I did not watch a lot of North Texas football last year, but they obviously have one of the best running backs in the country in Caleb Hawkins. My guess is once they discovered, hey, we've got an elite running game, we don't need to go hyperspeed. So I am curious what the pace looks like. Obviously, they're going to be fast, but are they going to be as fast as ECU last year? I don't know.
Yeah, like you said, if the run game is a part of it, you feel like you can kind of chug a lug down the field. You want to give your offensive line somewhat of a break too. Yes, that's giving the defensive line somewhat of a break, but I still don't see them subbing a lot. They'll go quick enough probably to keep their opponent from subbing too much, but I think it's probably going to be a little bit more like it was last year. Yeah. Now, if the running game's not going and you've got these quick-hitting receivers, you got some fast inside guys that you can just get the ball to, yeah, maybe it's set, go, boom. And you're calling plays as you're running up to the line. But I think if the offense is being successful, you're looking at that 22 to 23-second range. Unsuccessful might be closer to 20.
And we know, obviously, he's got a defensive-minded head coach. If the offense is struggling, the last thing he's going to want to do is go hurry up offense, 3 and out, put his defense back on the field. So I do think that has a lot to do with how the running game. And the thing I liked about JDB and Blake is they would change it from game to game. At times they would be they found a happy medium, I thought. Because I'm not a huge believer in if you just run this hurry up, ultra fast tempo offense at all times, it's not conducive to real good team success. But if you can pick your spots, it works pretty brilliantly. And I think JDB and Blake had a good blend of that, and now they got to find that mix with Jordan Davis.
They do, and that's tough chemistry. And like you said, a lot of it does depend on the success. I mean, there have been teams who have been the exception to what you just said, but again, that's what they are. They are an exception. You think of that 2010 Oregon team that lost the national championship game. They were that up-tempo. It also felt like they scored on every drive, so it didn't matter. That chemistry's tough, man. It's tough to look a guy in the eye and say, hey, man, I need you to do what you're doing differently to save me. And it's never easy, and it's not an easy conversation, and it speaks of the character of the two individuals when they're able to do that. So I do want to applaud both Coach Baker and Coach Harrell, and hopefully we can get the same here moving forward.
No doubt. Good discussion on the offense, the ceiling. We'll continue these types of discussions throughout the offseason. Tim Wayne saying having a taller quarterback helps in being able to hit those quick routes. No doubt. Emory Williams, really good short passer on film. Drew Mestemaker, obviously at North Texas, he was 6'4", Emory 6'5", so I think that could be a big reason why they recruited him. a lot of similar traits there as well. And then Tim also had, and I see the team having a more average floor than we have had in the past. I do not see us having a 2-10 season. Now, that is based on those season-killing injuries not occurring, obviously. So, good discussion. Appreciate everybody included in that, and we'll continue talks like that until we get to spring ball. It'll be here before you know it. As the spring game, I believe April 18th, Saturday, mid-April, we'll have coverage leading into that as well. Let's get a break in. We'll come back. ECU baseball roster rundown continues after this.
This is about you, your family, and the health of all who live in Eastern North Carolina. This is about the transformation of a health system into something more powerful and more human, about creating new ways to treat disease and keep you well. This is about ECU Health, which is to say, it's really all about you. ECU Health. Minds, hearts, purpose.
You have a choice when you invest in insurance, and when you choose First State Insurance Advisors, you're working with people you can trust. Clark Stallings has deep ties in the community. His team, including Keaton Smith, Regina Asby, Phil Leyva, Max Joyner Jr., Max Joyner III, and Ginger Smith, provides knowledgeable and professional advice. First State Insurance Advisors is an independent insurance agency. They offer all types of personal insurance as well as various types for business. Call or email First State Insurance Advisors today. We want to be your trusted choice agency.
Acre Station Meat Farm, along with Lane Angus Beef, bring you Farm to Fork Beef.
Stock your freezers now with affordable beef boxes, just in time for the grilling season.
Farm to Fork Beef brings quality local beef to your family. From your traditional butcher shop, Acre Station Meat Farm. Come on down to Acre Station Meat Farm and find out why we're #1 in fresh cuts and friendly service.
Acre Station Meat Farm, Highway 32 North, Pinetown. At National Finance, we're all about hometown support, just like ECU football. National Finance helps us win on and off the field. They've got your back when you need it most. Fast, easy personal loans for life's big plays. And just like us, they're committed to Eastern North Carolina. National Finance, proud supporters of ECU athletics. Visit nfcmoney.com for loans as fast as today.
Make every day electric on the Kawasaki Electro 20 electric balance bike. Maximize the fun with long run times, impressive top speed, and Kawasaki build quality. Easy adjustability and smooth handling make everyday riding more enjoyable. And the standard MTB type tires provide off-pavement capability. The Kawasaki Electro 20 is the electric balance bike that's built to rip. Go to Ron Ayers Motorsports, Memorial Drive north of the airport, Greenville.
Remember, get the podcast of the show on the IBX Media app or where you get your podcasts.
Got it. You don't have to tell me twice. I remember it exactly.
Stephen Igo and Hoist the Colors on 94.3 The Game.
Welcome back in. Hoist the Colors, segment 3 here on HTC. 3 days out from ECU baseball, and Xavier going at it on Friday in the season opener. We've been doing our ECU baseball roster rundown as well, going numerically through the roster. We are down into the mid-30s. That means a lot of pitchers, and so we'll continue on this conversation. We're going through every name, tell you all about them, and we're going to start with number 34, Nathan Wines. Unfortunately, really talented freshman, had been up to the mid-90s in high school at Archbishop Spalding, suffered an injury, had a procedure, and don't expect him to pitch this season. I think the injury happened in high school, but name to remember for the future more so than this year. Nathan Wines, number 34, 6'3", right-hander. Good stuff. Hopefully he comes back healthy, and I'm sure they'll take his rehab extra cautiously. Long-term, a guy that I like on the mound is Nathan Wines. All right, number 35 on our roster rundown is Gavin Van Kempen, 6'7", 240-pound right-hander, senior, spent 3 years at West Virginia University as a starting pitcher for the most part. Also pitched some out of the bullpen. It sounds like he will open the year as the team's Saturday starter, which says a lot given the amount of options ECU has on the mound. Good arm. Look, 6'7", 240. He's coming downhill at you. Low 90s consistently, can rush it up there in the mid to upper 90s when he's feeling good. His best season was in 2024 at West Virginia. 13 games, 5 starts, 7-1 with a 3.14 ERA, 28 innings, 35 strikeouts, and 14 walks. Last year, struggled a little bit with a shoulder injury, made 13 starts, though. 2-0 with a 6.13 ERA, 39 innings pitched, 37 strikeouts, but 26 walks. So, and I know he dealt with that shoulder injury talking to him towards the end of the season. And seems like he's healthy now, and he's made some adjustments, a little bit more over the top, has added a splitter. And if he earned the Saturday role with all this competition, Philip, that tells me that he's pitched really well this offseason. So I think a guy who is a candidate to put it all together at ECU with Austin Knight coaching him up is Gavin Van Kempen, and it sounds like we'll start to see how it unfolds this weekend.
Yeah, we will. And that, just one of those things, he's coming off that shoulder deal. It sounds like it wasn't anything extreme, but we always talk about guys, not going too deep in games. Those first week, maybe 2 weeks to ramp them back up. I think if any of our starters don't go deep, it's going to be him. He's already that's kind of been the one knock, it seems like, in his career, is his ability to go really, really deep in games. So this could be one of those things. It wouldn't surprise me if we only get 4 out of him maybe on Saturday, just for a safety reason. And, especially with this depth, you feel like you can put one of those guys who maybe slightly lost a battle for a starting job in there to go maybe 3 or 4 more innings. And, yeah, like you said, he's got to have good stuff, because right now it does sound like all 3 starting jobs are going to be earned, whereas it kind of felt like last year they were just kind of given out by default to the guys who were the best 3. Now they're definitely going to be earned this year.
Yeah, and I don't know. Look, I didn't follow a ton of West Virginia baseball last year. I know they were a darn good team, but he averaged basically 3 innings per outing. So I don't know if that was just like, hey, man, get us through the lineup one time, opener style. I do know I talked with him when he committed, and I just think he meshed with Austin Knight really well. So I'm not surprised that he's kind of made this leap, because, look, not saying he's going to be the next Trey Savage, but he has some similar traits to him, and I think just making a few adjustments should help. And again, we'll kind of see this weekend how it starts to break out. All right, next on our list, number 37, Ethan Rose. Mully mentioned this guy in our segment. Kenny had a question earlier about a potential sleeper. I would say Ethan Rose could be a sleeper. Freshman right-hander, 6'4", 215, out of Bridgeville, Pennsylvania. Really haven't heard his name a ton, but every time I have heard it, he's just kind of a funky, like, sidearm slot right-hander, rushes it up there 86 to 89, swing and miss stuff, racks up the Ks. So sounds like kind of a matchup right-hander, Ethan Rose, number 37 for the Pirates. So a name to watch early in the year.
Yeah, and a name to watch, especially because your Friday night guy is a left-handed pitcher. So now, obviously, teams will try and, counter Norby with left-handed bats, but still sometimes when you see a hard-throwing lefty, the offset for the next time through the order, you want to see a righty and a guy who doesn't throw as hard, and the guy with the funky arm slots. So if he can give you such a different look than your starter, this seems like a first guy out of the bullpen type guy, not a guy you're going to go, hey, man, I got 2 or guys on second, third, 1 out. I really need you right now. Or a guy that says, hey, man, I need you to give me the 8th right now. This is the kind of guy it's like, I don't want my starter to see this batter a 3rd time or maybe even a 4th time if Ethan's playing really well and pitching into the 8th. And then you bring this guy in and say, hey, you know what? You're going to really change the plate approach of these hitters, and you can use a player like him very situationally, and he can be very dangerous in those situations.
Going back to Gavin Van Kempen for a minute, Tim Smith said, would he fit the Gavin Williams mold? I think they're just different pitchers. Gavin was just straight. I mean, in college, he was just like straight raw gas and stuff. I think Gavin Van Kempen is more of a pitcher at this stage. Yeah, the raw stuff is good, but like Gavin's fastball was an elite pitch. So I can't really make that comparison, although the size is similar. I would say they're just different pitchers. So just to answer that before we move on. All right, our next player on the roster is Luke Payne. Awesome name, by the way. Luke Payne, number 43, transfer from Tennessee. Another guy with good size, 6'4", 200 pounds, coming from the left side. Did not pitch a ton at Tennessee. 9 combined relief appearances. Pitched well in those relief appearances. Struck out well over, well over like 1.5 batters per inning on average in his 9 innings. So the stuff is clearly there. He didn't get a ton of leverage spots. Now, we know Tennessee, one of the best programs in college baseball. I've heard good things. Upper 80s, low 90s fastball. Another option in the pen, most likely, as a left-hander. And then, between him, Gabe Beschloss, Dawson Neal, you've got some lefties here that are promising, Phillip. And, I feel like there's enough lefties that one of these, hopefully 2 of these guys, are going to be, some legitimate bullpen options.
Yeah, and you hope this is one of them. Look, you mentioned, 9 appearances. Doesn't sound great. But, again, 9 appearances, as you mentioned, at Tennessee. Tony Vitello was poached by the San Francisco Giants for a reason. That's how good Tennessee was last year. First college manager to ever be poached directly to a Major League Baseball manager role. So there was a lot of depth in this pitching staff. The fact he even almost saw double-digit appearances, the guy can't be terrible. I can almost guarantee you that. And like you said, this is maybe one of those guys you just hope by the time the end of the year comes, he's one of your quality lefties because – there'll be some days Norby is starting, and you have a lot of, Norby's not starting, and you've got a lot of guys trying to counter right-handed batters, and you're going to need to bring that lefty in to kind of counter that out. So it could be a first out of the pen, behind, a Sean Jenkins or whoever else is getting those starts.
And our final roster rundown player for today is Colby Weber. We discussed him earlier with Mike Mullis, number 44. 6'7", 200-pound right-handed pitcher, Shaler Area High School in Allison Park, Pennsylvania. There hasn't been as much buzz about Colby Weber as maybe Sean Jenkins year over year. I think Mully put it best. Jenkins' stuff was legit last fall, but it was almost out of necessity. I think if Weber starts, and I've heard good chance he starts Sunday. I think that's because he's too good not to start, which is a great thing considering the competition. And I think the biggest thing, too, is 6'7", 200, the size, repeatable delivery. There's maybe not as many moving parts with his delivery as Jenkins. So Jenkins got a little bit out of whack last year at times, whereas Weber a little bit more simple and repeatable. And 4 pitches already, 4 legit pitches. Obviously, the fastball is real, mid-90s. But he's got 3 other legit secondary offerings to go with it. So he can get experienced Division I hitters out today, which is a lot different than most freshmen who just rely on 1 to 2 pitches. And that's why he's a legit candidate for a starting rotation. Now, I'm just interested to see if he starts Sunday or if he starts midweek, whatever, Phillip, do they just cut him loose and say, hey, man, go out there, reach your 80, 85 pitch limit week 1, or do they go super conservative and throw him 2-3 innings, take him out if he's having success to let him build on that? I'm curious what plan they take with Colby Weber.
Ask me after the first 2 games and see how the first 2 games go.
Yeah.
I think if we're sitting 2-0 and their players look confused, and he's the Sunday guy, they're struggling, they're not hitting the ball well, maybe you go ahead and take him out. Just kind of save him. It's early, but if you split those first 2 games or their hitters look, like they've been pretty dialed in and he seems to be the first guy who's figured them out, CG's going to coach the game to win the game. So I know I just gave you a really cop-out bad answer, but I think sometimes those first couple games, especially that first week, can determine a lot of how you manage that 3rd game.
Tim Smith says, who has the most movement on their pitches with these new guys? And he says, would it be Ethan Rose? I have not seen enough to know, honestly, Tim. And I would think Rose with the sidearm action would be up there. I know Gavin Marley's fastball, it's not elite velocity, but it's got some real vertical movement to it and is something that really jumps on hitters. So and Norby, I think Norby's fastball might have the most movement as far as returners. Yeah. But if you're going to go new guys, I'd have to maybe lean towards one of those. But that'll be something that I can easily answer after the first weekend. After seeing all these guys pitch live, I just need to see them.
Well, and I understand the fans wanting us to know, and that's a good question. The tough thing is we just don't get out to fall ball as much as we want to, having to cover everything else. And should ask Mully.
Should ask Mully. Maybe we should ask Austin Knight at Media Day, so that's our bad.
Yeah, but we need an Ask Mully segment. Like the papers have an Ask.
I need to start jotting all these
Mully
down.
segment.
Yeah, I'll do that. All right, let's get our break in. Final break. We'll come back. We will wrap up the show after this.
You know what the problem is with standard belts? Usually you have to choose between too tight or the opposite, too loose. But with Anson Belt and Buckle, you don't have to choose. We got rid of the holes and instead have a track system designed for micro adjustability. That way you can enjoy a perfect fit every time. Anson Belt and Buckle. Find your perfect fit today.
Daughtridge Gas and Oil has been your dependable propane supplier for 95 years. Their trained technicians can service and properly install all your propane and natural gas appliances. Plus, Daughtridge Gas and Oil is your backyard expert with fire pits, grills, smokers, and more, including quality outdoor furniture at their Greenville Patio and Hearth Shop at 1901 Charles Boulevard. Go by and see the knowledgeable staff at Daughtridge Gas and Oil for propane delivery or call 756-1345.
Other restaurants claim their food is fresh and fast, but are they friendly? At Moore's, you're treated like family the minute you walk into their doors, with locations in Winterville, New Bern, Swansboro, Morehead City, and Jacksonville. We've been practicing what we preach since 1945. At Moore's, our barbecue is slow-cooked and smoked over real wood daily until it's so tender it's falling off the bone. Combined with our fresh chicken, cooked-to-order seafood, and homemade fixins, we're sure you'll agree. If it's not Moore's, it's less.
Your confidence makes everything look good. You see the world in vivid color, not black and white. Swing through your neighborhood Fantastic Sam's Cut in Color and let our experienced stylists take you from everyday to extraordinary.
Fantastic Sam's hair salons are locally owned and operated. Our full-service salons are conveniently located in Goldsboro, Kinston, Greenville, New Bern, Jacksonville, and Calabash. Stop in today at Fantastic Sam's, where the possibilities are endless.
You have a choice when you invest in insurance, and when you choose First State Insurance Advisors, you're working with people you can trust. Clark Stallings has deep ties in the community. His team, including Keaton Smith, Regina Asby, Phil Leyva, Max Joyner Jr., Max Joyner III, and Ginger Smith, provides knowledgeable and professional advice. First State Insurance Advisors is an independent insurance agency. They offer all types of personal insurance as well as various types for business. Call or email First State Insurance Advisors today.
We're live with Steve and Igo on 94.3 The Game.
Hoist the Johnny Roger!
Now, back to Hoist the Colors.
Welcome back in. Hoist the Colors, final segment here. Question from Kenny. More of a statement, I should say. He says, I'm a little anxious that we haven't had any press conferences and interviews to meet the new football coaches. Would love to get to know these guys and hear their vision. Kenny, look, I'm trying. I think this is it's an ECU thing where they're trying to figure out how exactly they want to handle some in-house media versus what they let some of their coaches, players do for outside media. So I think it's an ongoing thing. They have the rights internally to interview whatever coaches, players they want to in-house, and I think they're trying to do some content on their own. I would love to be able to tell you about Jordan Hankins and Jordan Davis, and I think they would love to. Blake Carroll I don't think cares either, but there's just a process to it. There are a lot of layers, and that's kind of why we're in a holding pattern. So I think we'll hear from them sooner than later, but that's all I can tell you, man. So it's not that they're scared to talk. I can promise you that. So we're just kind of working through that right now. All right, ECU basketball is the women are on the road. They take on Tulane. Tulane 3-7 in the league. ECU at 9-2, still behind Rice, which is 10-0. So tough 2-game road trip here for ECU. They go to Tulane for the first game, and then my computer's not loading, so I can't say where they're going next. Here we go. The women are going to Temple after that. So trying to take care of business before they come home for FAU Rice. And I'm ready to say it, Philip Pilkington. If ECU, the men, the basketball team does not win on Wednesday night, I am declaring the season officially over. Now, people are probably screaming at the radio, it's already over. They're done. They're 7-16. No, like UTSA has lost 16 games in a row. They are 4-19. They are 0-11 in the league. They have lost conference games by 21 points per game on average. If ECU cannot win this game at home on Wednesday night, it's over. Like, there's no way to recover from that. That is my official declaration, the death knell, the death sentence.
I agree. Who are their 4 wins? Do you have those in front of you? I'm curious. Is it like Lamar and Abilene Christian and what schools like that?
UTSA, I know we're running short on time. UTSA started the year 4-3. They beat the College of Biblical Studies, which is
big win, baby. Oh, yeah.
Southwestern Christian.
Are they D1? I don't think they're D1 either.
At Denver, so they took down the Nuggets.
Oh, DU. Hey, man, they got a good lacrosse team.
And their last win was Georgia Southern on November 25th.
That was before Thanksgiving.
Yeah. They haven't
Thanksgiving was the 28th or 29th.
Got to get this one, man. Got to get it Wednesday night, 7 o'clock, UTSA ECU. We'll preview that a little bit more tomorrow. James Giglio will be in studio. And we'll talk about social media as well. We'll have a segment on social media, how bad it's gotten these days, because I want to get into that. This has been Hoist the Colors. We'll see you at 12 noon on Wednesday.